You don't have to snap out of it. You don't need to be woken up or pinched or anything like that because you're not dreaming. The Buffalo Bills are 10-3. They have the opportunity to win the AFC East for the first time in 25 years this Saturday against the Denver Broncos. In Week 15, no less. To wrap up the division for teams like Green Bay or New Orleans or New England, of course, or even Pittsburgh, who the Bills just beat on Sunday night, that might not sound like a big deal. That's just sort of business as usual for them. This is almost an annual thing that happens to them. They have the opportunity to wrap up the division, before the end of the season and rest starters and whatnot. But for the Bills and Bills fans, this is entirely unfamiliar territory. This is a big deal for us. Since the turn of the century, much of this millennium, we have not been really relevant to the NFL. Made the playoffs a couple times recently, haven't won a playoff game. Obviously, there's still a lot to prove there. We'll talk about some playoff scenarios and whatnot as I move along here. But I don't want to skip past this. This is a turning of the corner, so to speak. I mean, I think we've sort of felt like that maybe even since 2019 when the Bills, sort of arrived on Thanksgiving. That was sort of the game where it's like, hey, we are for real here against Dallas, and they improved to 9-3 this year. They're 10-3. They look like, I don't want to jinx it or anything like that. They look like they're gonna not necessarily coast, but they're gonna win the division. I'm pretty confident that they're going to win the division because at this point it would take some really nice stretch from Miami, who I'm not entirely sure is very good, and then some colossal collapse from the Bills. And that obviously that could happen via injury or not. It doesn't have to be that. They could just, be phonies all along. But I think I know the team that I've watched every single week. They have signature win after signature win. They beat, let's just run through them here. They beat the Rams, obviously. They beat the Dolphins while Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. They beat the Raiders, who are in the playoff mix. Obviously, there's the Titans and Chiefs, kind of, that's their setback. That's their setback for the season. They got over the hump with New England. They beat Seattle. They're a Hail Mary away from beating Arizona. They beat the 49ers, and granted, they're beat up. And now they just beat the Steelers, who were 11-1 coming into the game. And for the Steelers, they're so boring. Granted, both teams were pretty boring for the first quarter, maybe even quarter and a half. That game on Sunday night had all the feels of it's going to be one of those where the Bills can't move the football and the other team's not doing so great either, but the Bills just can't do anything in response, so to speak. I don't even know how to word that really. It's just a game of bleh. The offense is bleh. And the Steelers are begging to be beat, and we just can't do it. I've seen plenty of games like that over the years. Not really so much from the team lately. And, it was approaching halftime, and I'm still feeling that way. The offense isn't moving. They have one field goal drive. That's not good enough at home. And I'm here's Sunday night, in front of the nation. I know that they had just beat the 49ers on Monday night, and looked great doing it. But the people that watched that game probably tune into this game, and they're like, oh, so the Bills were just fluky or lucky last week, or they played a beat-up San Francisco team, and now they're playing Pittsburgh, and they're ineffective. And I wouldn't blame you for feeling that way through much of the first half, because offensively, Josh Allen didn't look great. The offense just didn't look great. The game plan didn't look good. They weren't handling pressure all that well, even though Allen wasn't really getting sacked. He was pressured. He turned the ball over, and it was just one of those frustrating. Where is this team from last week? But Taron Johnson gets a pick six in the final 2 minutes of the half, and that flipped the momentum of the game. If I'm not going to go on another momentum spiel, whatever. That is obviously an argument that flies completely in the face of me hating momentum. But I think that sometimes you just need a play to sort of wake you up. You're sleepwalking through the game, and then somebody wakes you up, makes a play. And credit Taron Johnson for making that play. If you want to call that momentum, fine. It's momentum, whatever. But I've never seen somebody run so fast. Taron Johnson picked that ball off, and they showed the replay, and his eyes are just the adrenaline that he must have been feeling just must be insane. because he just took off on Juju Smith-Schuster and into the end zone, gives the Bills the lead going into halftime. Brian Daboll must have just balled up that offensive game plan, threw it in the trash, and was just like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw it to Stephon Diggs a lot. And that is going to, put a needle in the arm of our offense, basically. Just give us that jolt that we need. And obviously, he is their best player. It's quite obvious. Who can cover him? I have not seen somebody who is definitively is going to blanket Stephon Diggs and remove him from the game for the Bills offense. I don't know if there's anybody that can do it. I really don't. I'm that optimistic with the way Daboll schemes him open and his ability to find holes in zone and obviously beat man coverage. And if he is the good man coverage beater, Beasley's a good man coverage beater. Beasley is also great in the zone. He just has options all over the field. Didn't have to be a Beasley game because it was a Diggs game. Sometimes they have both. That is the Swiss Army knife that is the Bills' offense. And it went to sleep in the first half, granted. But I think at least that's what Daboll did, is just forget this. Forget this game plan. Let's do this. I'm with it. I don't know if that's what he did, but it was effective. I mean, the Bills, look at these drive charts in the second half. They got the ball, before I even get to looking at that, they got the ball back with 7 minutes left after the Pittsburgh interception and ran the clock out. They threw, got a first down with Dawson Knox, and then they were just okay, handoff, Zach Moss here, Josh Allen here. Game over. 7 minutes they ran off the clock. That's impressive. For any NFL team to do is just run off the last 7 minutes on 13 plays. Pittsburgh never got the ball back. They got the ball down 11, and there was an interception. You're thinking, okay, well, they'll probably get one more crack at this, maybe an onside kick type thing. Nope. Bills just put the kibosh on that. But again, in the second half, the Bills came out in the third quarter with a touchdown. They force the Steelers 3-and-out. They get the ball back. They get another touchdown. They force the Steelers 3-and-out. And this was the only drive. I mean, I probably shouldn't be complaining because the Bills, had 17 points in the second half on essentially, they ended up running the clock out. So essentially on 4 possessions, they had 3 scoring drives. But I would have loved to see the, the knockout punch. Steelers punt is 23-7. Your offense goes out there, and it's you could just knock them clean out right now. Not that the game was ever really in doubt at that point. I think the Bills just really never looked back. But you could have knocked them clean out by going up 30-7, and they didn't do that. They ended up going 5 plays and having to punt. And then the Steelers get the ball back. They score a touchdown. It's ugh! We had that chance. We had that chance to knock them out, and we didn't do it. But to the Bills' credit, they get the ball back. They have a 4-minute drive, 11 plays. They kick the field goal, which is, you would have liked to see a touchdown, obviously. But really, the field goal gives you the 2-score lead, with 8 minutes to go. Is it something like that? About 8 minutes to go. And you're feeling a lot more comfortable. And then, obviously, they get the interception from Levi Wallace, and the Bills run the clock out. I mean, I think a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of, because I was very impressed with the Bills in the second half. But, thank you, Steelers. What is wrong with the Steelers? I talked about this last week on my video. They are masquerading as an 11-2 team. They're not very good. They're very good on defense, very talented on defense, and that's probably what pushes them. They have a lot of injuries now with, Bush being out and Dupree and Hayden wasn't there. But, TJ Watt was relatively ineffective. Congratulations to Darrell Williams. Did a tremendous job on him. But, they're boring. They are so boring on offense. No creativity whatsoever. They try to run the ball. They can't run the ball. They throw short passes. They're tackled immediately. They don't really get yards after catch. They have wimpy punts. Tomlin in the first half punted 2 times in Bills territory on 4th and short. Thank you. And he's just thinking, well, I trust my defense here. But no, don't trust your defense. He's a very good coach. He's won 2 Super Bowls. 1 Super Bowl? 1 Super Bowl, right? Yeah. So he's very good. I mean, he's a very good coach. That team is very good year in and year out. But you must know that you have to score points at some point. You're just going to believe that the points are going to come, or that the Josh Allen and the Bills offense that's been very successful all year isn't going to eventually score on you. I hate that mindset. He benched Deontay Johnson, and I know that he did that because he's a coach, and told his team that if, the guys can't catch, that, they'll find somebody who can, or whatever he told them the week after. But, like, he benches Ben's best player that gets open for him regularly. And I know it's frustrating to watch him drop balls, but, like, you're taking one of your best players off the field. So thank you. Thank you, Steelers. Nobody's afraid of you anymore. Anyway, I've gone way too long on the Steelers. I do obviously want to talk about the Broncos and maybe a little bit about the playoffs. In terms of the playoffs, I'm not going to talk about opponents just yet because there's a lot that could still happen. But the Bills could clinch the division this week against Denver. That is because the Bills, it's because of common games. So Miami can't catch the Bills in record if the Bills win on Saturday. The best they can do is both go 11-5. The best they can do is both go 4-2 in the division. They'd be 1-1 head-to-head. Although I think before... No, okay, that's correct. And then it comes down to common games before conference record. So they both went 3-1 against the NFC West. So that's a wash. They both swept the Jets. The best they can both do is split against, or the worst the Bills can do and the best the Dolphins can do is split against the Patriots. So there's that. And they both beat the Chargers. They both lost to the Chiefs. Those type of games. The Raiders are still upcoming. The Bills beat the Raiders. So the best the Dolphins can do is match that. And what it comes down to is Denver. Miami lost to Denver. If the Bills beat Denver, they'll have that advantage in common games. So that is where the tiebreaker lies right now. The Bills beat Denver. They win the division. Anyway, Denver, I think, is a little bit more of a task than some people are thinking. I said this a couple weeks ago against the Chargers because they have Justin Herbert, and I'm not super impressed with Drew Lock. I know that he showed up last year and went 4-1 for them. This year, I believe he's 4-6 as a starter. That is correct. 13 touchdowns, 13 picks, but he's coming off probably his best game as a pro against Carolina, 21-27, 280 and 4 touchdowns. Found KJ Hamler deep a couple of times for some long touchdowns. Really, I mean, he's had good games. He's thrown for over 300 yards, threw for over 300 against Atlanta. They were, coming back there, but, he has a couple of nice games as a pro, obviously. I think that might have been his best one, especially on the road. I just look at this game as I almost want to flip the roles a little bit. The Bills used to be what Denver is. Like, you have a young quarterback, you're optimistic about him, you like your players, you have injuries on defense, like the Broncos are down Bryce Callahan, and Bassey and Bouye is suspended, so they are left with, what's that, well, I'm blanking on it, and I have it right here. Kareem Jackson, veteran, been in the league a long time, Michael Ojemudia, and what's the other one? Oh, Bosby. Bosby got a lot of balls his way. He played well on some of them, not great on all of them. That was a game I thought that they should have, against the Panthers, that Denver probably should have ran away with maybe, and they were up 25-10, but like, here comes Bridgewater nickel and diming them to death. And if Teddy Bridgewater can nickel and dime them to death, but best believe me, Josh Allen can. I love Justin Simmons, don't get me wrong. I love Bradley Chubb. Justin Simmons might be one of the more underrated players in the entire NFL. I think he's a fantastic safety. He leads them with 4 interceptions this year. Bradley Chubb, as I just said, leads them in sacks with 7.5. So they can get after the quarterback. They can force mistakes. And the Bills have been prone to mistakes lately. So I think that Denver's capable of staying in this game. What I was going to make the point before is that, the Bills have been that role before. You're at home. You're not a great team, but you have some young and up-and-coming players. Like I said, you're missing some guys on defense. They're missing their best offensive weapon, maybe. And I don't even know if it's a maybe in Cortland Sutton, who's been out for the year. But they have nice young players in Hamler and Judy. Tim Patrick has been nice for them. But you're not there yet. As a fan, you want to think that you might put up a fight in this game, that you are capable of being like, hey, we could do this. We're capable of beating this game, but you're just not ready for it yet. And it's weird for me as a Bills fan to say that about the Bills, because that just goes to show you that the Bills have really turned a corner. So I'm going to pick the Bills, obviously. I'm going to pick the Bills to beat Denver and wrap up the division. I'm going to give the Bills a 27-19. Nice 8-point game there. Maybe there's a field goal there and Denver keeps it close late. And then we have to sweat it out a little bit, at least on one drive or two, because we always do. 27-19 Bills, AFC East champions. Guys, enjoy your weekend, as always, above all else, go Bills.